Today, in batshit crazy world, Half-Life 3 is almost finished, and Gears of War is coming to PlayStation. These are rumors that you would have heard 10 years ago and be like, all right, buddy. It's like your uncle or your cousin who's a conspiracy theorist, and they always have the latest and greatest news in gaming that never comes true. That's the type of guy that would have gave you this news 10 years ago. But today it's looking like where this is actually a real possible scenario that we're looking at.
Could you fathom? Because, like, the thing is with Half Life is that it was left on a cliffhanger. Could you fathom something like Mass Effect 2 going 10, 15, 20 years without getting a sequel? And it just floating there, like, oh, I guess Shepard's not going to save the galaxy then. And just, like, it's just inconceivable. Because when you think about, like, when you was playing Mass Effect, you're like, oh, yeah. And when you're playing it and you beat it, and you're like, oh, man, I can't wait to see the conclusion. And you just know that, it's only going to be a couple years at most in between it. Like that's how the Half Life fans must have felt. And then another year passes, and another year passes, and another year, and it's just like, at what point do you kind of just fold?
Yeah, well, I guess the point is not 20 years later, actually 21 years later now, because I guess we can go ahead and jump into the first story.
Yep.
Half-Life 3 is supposedly this is so hard for me to even say like with honest and sincere fucking like I want to just Half-Life 3 is supposedly playable from beginning to end right now. So the game is technically finished and I guess they're in the polishing phases of Half-Life 3. So Tyler McVicker, who has a history of insider reporting on Valve projects, claimed in his latest YouTube discussion that the game, which is reportedly codenamed HLX, is far enough ahead in development that it can be played from start to finish. This is coming from Video Games Chronicle.
Mm-hmm.
McVicker claimed that HLX is being play tested by a sizable group of people and that some of them have already leaked plot details to other people. HLX is being play tested so religiously and so widely that there are individuals that will just talk. He said, I personally have a policy of avoiding any story related questions or information where possible, so I currently have avoided all of them, but I've been offered it by people whom are trustworthy, and I know that some of my contemporaries have been given it, so there is information out there about the plot. Um, Elsewhere in his video, McVicker stressed that Half-Life 3 is not a VR title like Half-Life Alyx was, and that Alyx had been significantly leaked more than HLX had been at this point in development, suggesting that the current project is being kept more tightly under wraps to an extent. And then he's, going on to he says, given its reported stage of development, McVickers said that the game could be ready for an announcement this summer and a release in winter, though it was stressed this was purely guesswork on his part.
Mm.
This is the, he said, this is the furthest it's ever been, he explained, period. This game is playable end to end, period. It's never been that far, and they're optimizing it, polishing it. They're probably content locked, or if they're not, they're mechanic locked. So, yeah, this is, I it 2025 really is one of the most batshit years in video game history. Like it really is just from a news standpoint, from a game release standpoint, from a industry shakeup standpoint. Like there's just so many moving parts. Games got we got the $80 game coming into the fold. Well, we have fucking 25 game of the year contenders dropping every single month. Like it's just, and then hey, Grand Theft Auto 6 is delayed, but in its place, how about you have some Half-Life 3 potentially? It's like what the fuck world are we living in 2025?
Yeah, every time that something negative seems to happen this year, something like Whiplash is back. Because, like we said, with the price increases going up to 80, and then you think of every single like KCD2 aside, because I don't think that was 50. But the majority of the front running Game of the Year contenders that people are going to be like, yeah, that has to make the thing, they're all 50 titles for the most part. It's just
Oh,
baffling. It's just a crazy year. And like you said, with the oh, we've been waiting what feels like forever for GTA 6, and that gets delayed. But they've been waiting even more forever for Half-Life 3, and then that has more of a chance of potentially releasing it. Like what? Yeah, it's just it's nonsensical
Yeah.
in reality, but this is the reality that we're in.
It's funny because like now that GTA 6 has left that holiday window wide open,
Mm.
I mean, fucking A, what better of a drop to get for holiday 2025? Sitting there the cold months of the year playing some Half-Life 3. Like that would be I'm curious though, do you think this is console? Do you think this is PC only? Like I that's the
Mm.
weird thing about Valve is they really can kind of do whatever the fuck they want to do and not have to worry about any sort of because they're not a publicly traded company. So like if they just we'll optimize it for PC for now, maybe we'll release it one day for console. Like I could totally see that with their backwards kind of just they have a they have a they don't have all of the different problems that other publishers have.
Yeah, it all depends on how it plays. And I know that sounds kind of like a cop out excuse, but Valve games were like very hit or miss. In when you had games on console and they felt good to play, you had maybe their best outings were like Portal and
Portal.
Left 4 Dead, and even then Left 4 Dead kind of felt stiff. When they brought CS:GO to Xbox 360, it was tragic. It was one of the worst control schemes I think I've ever seen implemented in a game, and it just felt stiff. And then the what is it, Half Life didn't feel perfect because it's all done in the Source engine. So it depends on how well they can make it feel. Because if it is that kind of stiff that we're used to with them, I yeah, it might do more damage than good putting it on a console, to be honest. And it would also have huge pull factor to be like, yeah, we're not going to put it on console, but you can play it on a Steam Deck.
Hmm.
Nudge, nudge. You know.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a world where we see the Steam box or whatever it is going to be called, the Steam machine, and this is kind of revealed as the big title for that platform. I know they're not into the whole exclusive thing, but they've also never been into the home console market. So it's like, yeah, I mean, if you really did want to break into this space and make a fuck ton of money and then, and sell tens of millions of these boxes, like there you go. There's your exclusive app right there. Your exclusive piece of software that's going to ensure that this console sells well out the gate. Um, yeah, I'm curious too though. The wait has been real, and I do feel like the fervor for this is, I mean, died out a long time ago. People clamoring for Half-Life 3 in mass, like it hasn't been like that since the 2010s, probably. It's slowly dissipated more and more over time, but I still think this is going to be fucking huge if it comes out. I just wonder to what degree of huge.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely some games that do carry that kind of like hype, no matter what. But then you think back to because Dragon Age didn't do too well. I know there was a lot of controversy spiraling it, but even like the build up of like anticipation, like you're talking, what was it? 2014 was Inquisition,
Inquisition, yeah.
so it was a 10-year gap, and most people just didn't care anymore. When you leave it to be that long of a gap, there's it's so hard to maintain hype and what do you call it, like loyalty to a series, because it just feels like the developer doesn't care if they're making you wait 10 years and kind of like keeping everything under wraps and not really giving you any information. It's very hard to stay hyped, but I don't know. It's that type of thing where if they were to drop a trailer, I think it would just blow the internet up. Like
Yep.
if it was, especially if it's named Half-Life 3. This is the thing.
Yep.
If it's some like Alex thing where it's like, yeah, technically it's another Half-Life game, and they're kind of sidestepping it because they don't want to step on the number three. Like, I don't know if that would do as well as that, but if it's free, I think it'll smash the doors down, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that even I think worst case scenario, you're looking at a game that sells 10 million copies. Like I think it's going to be a smash hit regardless of anything. I could really see a world where it sells 20 plus million copies. Like I wouldn't if it was available everywhere, of course, like that's a massive part of it. If it's just available on PC, it's not going to sell 20 million copies. But over time, as it becomes available on PlayStation and Xbox and maybe Switch 2, I could definitely see it selling 20 plus million copies because I think Half-Life 2 sold around 14, 15 million, if I'm not mistaken, which games back then, like that would have made in that generation, Half-Life 2 probably would have been a top 10 best-selling game of the entire generation.
Mm.
Um, so there's just, yeah, games sell quite a bit better today. It's crazy you look back at like, because I think out of the top 10 best-selling PS2 games, GTA Vice City, San Andreas, and GTA 3 are all in the top 10, and they're all, if I'm not mistaken, under 25 million copies sold. It's so crazy in comparison to 100 million for GTA 5, which obviously online was a big component of that, but even compared to Red Dead with over 50 million copies sold, double GTA San Andreas, which is like, wow, that is so insane to think about it that way.
Yeah, it's the type of thing as well because it's so funny that you mentioned the sales figures and stuff because I was actually looking at the best selling games of all time when I was talking to a friend about it. I think it was last night, and you're talking like Ark is up there as one of the best selling games of all time. So like the industry truly has changed, and it's the type of thing where because the point I was making to him is that streamers really do push popularity in games.
Oh yeah.
So if you're talking like Half-Life 3 dropped, that would dominate Twitch and stuff like that to push it even further. So even if there wasn't that like yearning for it to begin with, it would be a load of PC, fans pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. I think it would if it was available everywhere as well. It would just fly off shelves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I could see this hitting being one of those like 300 plus thousand concurrent players day one or weekend one, whatever. Like I could see this doing gangbuster numbers. So here we go. The it's not like the wait begins because we have nothing to even wait on. Like this is just rumor right now, but I believe this fellow Tyler McVicker was also correct about the Deadlock game before it was officially confirmed that that was in development or confirmed that, he was talking about Half-Life is working on a competitive first-person shooter. And then they were, or not Half-Life, was Valve was working on a competitive first-person shooter, and they were. So he seems to be a pretty prominent leaker in the Valve space. So we'll take his word for the gospel as of right now, but definitely, with all rumors throw a little bit of salt into that throw a little bit of salt into that the what's the fucking term I'm looking for? Uh
take it with a little pinch of salt.
yeah, yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. Throw a salt into a I
You kind
don't
of
know where the fuck.
stumped me there. I was okay. But yeah, 21 years almost since
Yeah.
Half-Life 2. Obviously the episodes came out after that and stuff, but like you kind of like bundle them all in together as like one package in one's mind. So like that's an absurd wait. Like you're talking almost a quarter of a century.
But you know what else was an absurd wait? Baldur's Gate 3. And it ended up being the best-selling Baldur's Gate game like 50 times over. And I know it's like a totally brand new thing, but I'm assuming Half-Life 3 will also be a totally brand new thing. Like I don't think it's gonna
From a
I don't
different
think
dev though as well, like a complete brand new dev of
with
DNA.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. So obviously, I don't think many of them people probably. I don't know how. Like from what I've heard, working for Valve is probably one of the best jobs ever. So
Hmm.
I don't know if people really, actively jump ship from landing that. But I don't know if I'd want to sit there for 20 years making hats in Team Fortress 2.
No.
So I don't know how many of the original people are still there.
But
But
see,
yeah.
that's the thing with Baldur's Gate 3 is it's a lot of the people who founded Larian left BioWare and left BioWare to found Larian. So there was still that passion for Baldur's Gate from a lot of the core Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 talent from BioWare who went to found Larian. So it's that's the thing. If the developers are passionate about it, then I think Half-Life 3 is going to be a smash hit. I even if it's not all that great, I think it's going to be a smash hit. Like
Hmm.
I think worst case scenario, it's selling tens of millions of copies. That the wait has just been so insane. But speaking of the wait, the wait for Oblivion was not the most insane thing, as this is a shadow drop that we didn't have to wait for much at all. But that shadow drop has led this game to incredible sales. It's the third best-selling game of 2025 already. We're not even 30 days removed from the fucking game dropping. Um, yeah, so Monster Hunter Wilds is the best-selling game of the year, and Assassin's Creed Shadows is the second best-selling game of 2025. Um, Oblivion remaster, Shadow Drop, no marketing, less than 30 days, third best-selling game of the year. What the hell, dude? I mean, I think people sometimes underestimate just how popular The Elder Scrolls is. It's not, and it's like, how the hell can you underestimate that? But I think people shit on BGS nonstop, and it's like, yeah, that's fun, that's cute, but th
Who would do
th
that?
but and like there is things to shit on BGS for, like totally. I don't think, I really don't think they've ever made a game that's like incredible to play or anything, but people yearn for those experiences on a level that there's only if we're being real, there's two companies. There's Rockstar and there's BGS in terms and Nintendo in terms of games that are just going to sell 50, 60 million fucking copies just with the name Elder Scrolls, the name fucking, you know, Mario Kart, Zelda, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead. Like there's very few of those, and you can kind of some of those aren't necessarily single player, but you get what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Games that can be viewed as like single player games, there are very few of those that are just surefire, bankable fucking hits. And The Elder Scrolls is one of those, man.
Yeah, I will. I will say it surprises me a little bit because um their their like boom in popularity didn't like they it sold well, Oblivion, for what it was, but it didn't have like the reception Skyrim received. It didn't have the reception that, Fallout 4 received and stuff like that. Like they truly dominated when they came out. So I think as well the reason it's selling so well is that so many people, especially Elder Scrolls fans, they've been starved of a new game. And to a lot of these people, that is a new game because they haven't actually experienced the building, uh, especially like PlayStation players, because you don't have backwards compatibility in the way that
Mm-mm.
Xbox players have. Like we've had Oblivion still accessible on our modern hardware for years now, so it's not really other than it being a polished up experience. Like we've not had that missing, whereas PlayStation players really have. So I think that plays a contributing factor, as well as like you said, I know I rib them and stuff like that. They do make very particular experiences. And I think that, again, when you're constantly re releasing the same product, no matter how good it is, people do want change at the end of the day. So,
So you re-release a new product.
exactly. And the thing is, you know, it's Todd's words, it just works. Like,
Yeah.
it really does. And this is the thing where that's come out now. And now they're probably looking over their shoulder and being like, Fallout 3, New Vegas,
Yeah.
Morrowind. Like, they don't even need to make new game. Like, and this is the thing of like, how it's kind of funny that it links with Half-Life 3. How long do they have to wait for a actual new title in their series? Like it's absurd. Like you're talking what 2011 was Skyrim?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very decent likelihood that it's going to be a 20-year wait. Like, we're in 2025 now. Could you see it taken to 2031? I could.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be a little bit, but like 28, 29, like that's still 20 years, you know, like round up, it's 20 fucking
Mm,
years.
yeah, it's just I because I don't think we've really talked about this like particular part of gaming, like this, like with this being at the forefront. Like, what other media can survive 20 years between like you wouldn't make a Star Wars film and then wait 20 years to put another Star Wars film out. You wouldn't, unless you're George R. R. Martin, you wouldn't wait 20 years to put out a new book and stuff like that. Like, it's just, it's very bizarre that that's become like the new, it is, it's just the new standard. When you're looking over your shoulder, like Naughty Dog and stuff like that, they're taking longer to put out games. Rockstar taking longer to put out games. Bethesda, like
Yeah.
everybody is doing this, and the only people that aren't are the ones that they get flamed for reusing assets, and like Ubisoft and stuff like that. And it's like we need to find a middle ground, man. We really do. Like
I yeah.
it's baffling.
I think that middle ground is what we saw with like Expedition 33
Hmm.
and Split Fiction and War Horse and I think the middle ground is starting to become more obvious of the direction that the industry needs to take. But I also think that you, how do I say this? Like, if you're a Rockstar, a Naughty Dog, a BGS, kind of just do what you do,
Hmm.
and let everybody else course correct, and you just be the outliers. Where whenever you put something out, it's an event. You know what I mean? And like, Naughty Dog doesn't even necessarily fit into that group. If I'm just being real, I love Naughty Dog, not trying to be shitty, but like, it's not an event when a Naughty Dog game comes out. Not in the same way it is with a Rockstar BGS title. Um, it's that's an event. You know, when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, when GTA 6 comes out, the world is going to stop. It's everybody is going to be playing those two games. Um, and that's the thing. Like, I wonder a lot about Starfield if it would have been day and date on PS5. And I know I'm obviously super biased. I love Starfield. It's probably my favorite BGS game to play, just like the core gameplay. I find it so fun to play.
Hmm.
But I really do think about how negative that conversation was. And I'm like, I wonder if that was available everywhere when it came out, would people, I mean, I think the PC community still would have been negative on it because I think they like a very particular style of BGS game, you know, open world fantasy kind of, you know, roam around, go wherever. Like it, Starfield really isn't that. Starfield's in the weirdest way, Starfield's the most linear game they've ever made, even though it's a galaxy, fucking a full galaxy that you're being able to travel between. But like if you just play, like it feels like Starfield is a console game in the weirdest way, where it's like you go from mission to mission to mission. There's these loading screens. There's these like things that console players are like, yeah, we're familiar with this. The worst part about Starfield is the exploration, which I think is what people like BGS. A lot of people like BGS games for that, so I understand them being flamed for that. But I think a lot of the negativity around Starfield was not necessarily saying from PlayStation fans, but I think that whenever you have 70 million people or whatever that don't have access to this game, that, you know, maybe if 20% of them want to play it, even 10% of them, like that's still fucking millions of people who can be vocally negative about something and shift a conversation in a negative direction, even though they never played it.
Yeah. I don't know, because obviously the people that also were dropping the reviews, they had to have purchased it on them platforms. Like Steam obviously ran very negative. Xbox was very negative. The reviews on Xbox were extremely negative. And I don't think, for me, being somebody who was always fairly critical of them, like I felt like they streamlined and they simplified things constantly, release after release. I think people finally, that was the straw that broke the camel's back with Starfield for a lot of people. It was a complete eye opener of them being like, what are we doing here? For like, because what you're saying is true. When they come out, they're meant to be games that dominate the industry. This is the team that, brought you Skyrim, which dominated the 360 and stuff like that when it came out, and the PS3 and PC. And they've just been on kind of like a wobbly down slope since then. Like Fallout 4 came out and it kind of like peaked up and then it started dropping big time. 76. We all know what happened with 76. People are also sick of seeing the re-releases of Skyrim. So Starfield was meant to be that, oh, that's them being very ambitious, going to sci-fi setting and doing something completely new. And then it was kind of like, oh, it's not completely new. You've kind of really played it safe. Because that was my disappointment. Like it just didn't feel. It just felt like the status quo of just potential of them, and they don't reach it. That was my take on it and feeling personally.
Yeah, it's weird because like Starfield was an event when it came out. You know, everybody was talking about it. Had like 300 plus thousand concurrent players, fucking crazy numbers. Um, and they, once again, we're talking about this felt like an event without PlayStation, without the biggest console market in the world. And it's like that's the thing because I'm thinking about Elder Scrolls 6 and you know, Starfield felt like an event, but it didn't feel like a Skyrim style event. And I was like, okay, well, is that because it's sci-fi? Is that because this, that, and that? But I really think that like when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, obviously it's going to be day and date on PlayStation. Um, I don't think I could be wrong. You know, yeah, we can look back at this and people can laugh at me, but I think when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, like it's gonna be 60, 70 million copies sold. Like it's gonna be fucking massive. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the BGS, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the naysayers, the people who are tired of the BGS formula, I think it's pretty obvious that that's not the case. Like this is the third best-selling game of 2025 in less than a month, Oblivion remastered. And it's like I, that that's that's just BGS. Like there's it's not like Virtuous went in there and really redid anything the BGS didn't already do. Like sure there's some different um voice actors in there and that you can like jump and shoot your bow and arrow. Like there's some things in there that they tweaked a little bit, but that's just BGS. Like that's their game. This is
Mhm.
the third best selling game of the year that fucking Shadow dropped and came out in less than 30 days. So yeah, we'll see, but I think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be fucking beyond massive if it ever comes out.
Yep.
All right. And now let's talk about another game that was very, very fucking successful. Split Fiction has already sold 4 million copies. In my opinion, easily the runner-up to Game of the Year this year. I think it's a two-horse race right now for the Game of the Year spot at the old Keeley's in December. Um, it's definitely going to come down to either Expedition 33 or Split Fiction from the games that have released currently. I could see maybe Ghost of Yotai. Yote, fuck Yote. Ghost of Yote. I could
I
see
don't
it
even
maybe.
bother saying it. I don't want that on my shoulders.
It's impossible, man. Once you start saying something long enough, it just becomes the like that's sort of the it's a habit. But I could see Yote maybe if it does something to totally reinvent the wheel. If Hades 2 drops this year, that's definitely going to be a contender. And then Hollow Knight Silk Song maybe, but I think Hollow Knight Silk Song is kind of at the point where people have been waiting so long that the hype is starting to dwindle a little bit on that as well. So I think anything that they put out is going to be like, it took this long to make this. I think it could be that style of thing. Um, but yeah, I think those are really the only contenders that are left to drop this year. Split Fiction, Hades 2, Silk Song, Yote, and maybe a Nintendo thing. But I don't really know which one looking at their lineup.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because we in previous years when you think about it, you have a bunch of titles that release early on in the year, and you're like, man, they're good games, but they're not contender games. We just it feels like there's so many games. Like you only have 6 spots.
Yeah.
Like, and this is what we're talking about with like any other year that a Nintendo console launches and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's a lock in that may that definitely one of their games gets in. There's highly likely that two of their games get in. This could be a scenario where none of their games get in, which would be
Yeah.
baffling, absolutely baffling. And that's just how competitive the market is this year. And I won't lie, I didn't see this happening this year. If I'm being honest, I didn't fit, especially this early. I was like, maybe towards the end of the year, the stuff that we didn't know, maybe something swoops out. I didn't see it being this red hot. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean it's the thing too, Loon, where like with GTA just getting delayed, how many games are about to get launched or how many games are about to get announced for Summer Game Fest, that's like, hey, we're gonna squeeze in that fucking holiday window. You know what I mean? Like let's try to get in where we fit in. And yeah, it's and then you just saw Doom drop today. The reviews dropped today, and those are like right around a 90. I mean, you can't necessarily count that out either. It's a crazy, crazy year for top tier game releases. Blueprints as well. Like that could be
Yeah,
in the finals. It's just um
because it was the highest rated game for the year at one point, right?
yeah. I think it's still right up there with Expedition 33 and Split
Mm.
Fiction. Like those three are the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 should probably I mean, yeah, I think it should probably be in that final six. Like but we've mentioned like 15 games in
Mm.
the last 5 seconds. So it's like, yeah, it's going to be a brutal, brutal year. But I was talking to the manager of the GameStop that I go to. Um, we always just shoot the shit about games and what we're playing. And, I know people hate GameStop, but I really look forward to it every time I go into GameStop just to talk to the people who work there. Like yeah, I get it. GameStop's pretty shady in terms of the corporate side of it, but the humans who work at the store, they really have nothing to do with the shady corporate shit. They're just people. And so we were just talking about Split Fiction, and him and his wife were playing Split Fiction, and he was like, "Man, well, she only plays with me in like 20-minute increments, so we're making no progress on the game." And I was like, dude, I've never finished one of their games until Split Fiction. Like I played A Way Out, I played It Takes Two, but I never, because it's the same thing. Your co-op partner is the most important thing. But I was like, dude, their next game's going to be single player and co-op. He was like, oh, really? He was like super fucking hyped for their next thing to be able to jump in and play through it and see the entirety of the game. And it's crazy looking at the sales of Split Fiction, 4 million copies sold in a couple of months. And that is a game that requires two people. So it's like, what is this next game gonna, if it still keeps that level of creativity,
Hmm.
that level of ambition and ingenuity and all of the things that Split Fiction and It Takes Two really elevated the co-op genre with, if it can do that in the single player space, what's the ceiling for that, man?
Yeah, I hope it garners them success and it isn't like a massive step backwards in the way of sales. Because you think of like the last game that was truly single player from them was Brothers, right?
Yeah.
And that did not move the needle whatsoever. It had a very interesting premise. It was very unique, but it was the kind of thing of like I don't know if you'd agree with this. That genuinely felt like that should have been a co-op game in many. sensors. I know they kind of get funky with using, but I think it's one stick for each of the brothers and stuff like that. But that truly felt like that probably should have been a co-op game, and I think that's probably why they went down that rabbit hole of being like, okay, well, we'll explore that kind of thing. So I don't know what their next game would even look like. Like, are they gonna try and keep it simple, or would it be back at like the brothers thing of trying to like be something really, really creative and stuff like that? Do you think it'll be play it safe or try and be very out there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be batshit crazy. I think what they're going to realize is, of course, Brothers was made with the smallest budget of any of their games, I would assume. So there was a lot of restrictions there. I think what they're going to realize is they are truly going to be able to be unleashed in terms of what their creative output can be in a single player environment when you're not having to think about rendering in two screens simultaneously. You're not having to think about, rendering in the two worlds like they did, and you're not having to think about fucking, okay, well, if and they are going to have a co-op variant, like you can play it co-op their next game. Um, but I think that it's going to be there. I think their creativity is going to be on another level where they they're going to have the largest budget they've ever had by a mile for their next game, and they're gonna have a potential player base of, I mean, like I triple
Hmm?
the amount of players of and Split Fiction peaked at like 250,000 concurrent players. So that game, I like sold 4 million copies. This thing could sell 20 million like it could be a humongous thing. Um, and I don't know, I've just kind of gotten like that's a team at this point where I'm like, yeah, I just think y'all might be like the best in the biz. Like I think y'all are in that pantheon of like y'all are just as good as it fucking gets. And to see what they can do with an even larger budget and, you know, less co-op restrictions,
See,
it's really going to be interesting.
that's where I won't say that yet because I want to see what they can do with single player stuff. Um, they make really, really, really good experiences. Don't get me wrong, but that's also what doesn't get credited enough is that most co-op experiences it's usually as well like they make really cool scenarios, but it's also you're having to make the fun yourself as the player and the co-op partner. Like you're having to make them moments be moments. Like they can place you in them worlds and stuff like that, but you're also having to create them moments yourself. So when it's scaled back to single player, and stuff like that, where you don't have another player into it. Because I'm thinking back of a very specific. Obviously, you don't want to spoil Split Fiction, but with you saying about the two cameras and stuff like that towards the end of that game, and it got very creative with them two cameras, which you wouldn't be able to do that in a single player sense in the way that you achieved it in that co-op sense. That was a true co-op moment. So I want to see how they get their creative juices flowing in a single player game.
It's funny though, like you saying that you kind of have to create the moment yourself in most co-op games. I think that's the thing that shines with Split Fiction and It Takes Two is that they actually do create the moments for you to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I have a level of trust with them where it's like the pinball section or the different worlds they were able to create. Like those would all be incredibly fun in single player. Like I don't really even think that I think that's also why I hold Split Fiction in such a high regard as well. Is I think if I was playing that by myself, if you were playing that by yourself, I don't think the experience would really have been hurt at all. Like I think that 99% of those levels, except the one big moment, were all just would have been incredibly fun in single player.
Yeah, there were definitely sections that I think at like the turret section. There's them types of things where it truly depends on a second player, so they would have to probably cut that and do
Hmm.
something else. Um, but yeah, the standard platforming stuff you can definitely get away with doing that in single player. But
Yeah.
was that better than the co-op stuff? would you say? Because if I'm being honest, I think like like the like you said the pinball section, you can't really you can do that section, but it was all the more creative because it was two player.
Hmm.
If you were doing that all by yourself, you wouldn't feel as good about accomplishing something like that. It would be just a gimmick, if that makes sense. Like when we were doing it, it was you having to coordinate and stuff like that. Because obviously I was doing one thing and you were doing another.
Yeah. I I mean obviously so for they are going to have co-op in their next game or from what he said, from what he's alluded to. It seems like they're trying to have co-op in their next game as well as single player. So it probably still will be a thing where it could just be a thing where co-op is the main way to play and single player is just a way to play to get people in the door who didn't have a co-op partner. So maybe your experience is going to be a little bit hurt by not having a co-op partner. Maybe that's the optimal way to play the game, but it just allows people to have like an AI companion and Resident Evil 5 style. Like I think that I think they're going to be all right. That's my hot take is that the studio that won Game of the Year 2 years ago and is nominated for Game of the Year will likely be nominated for Game of the Year this year. I think they I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think
Those
they'll be
guys over
fine.
there seem incredibly fucking talented. And speaking of incredibly talented studios, Remedy, they're sick of this shit. They're sick of it. They're tired of, as Ply said, I'm sick of this shit, dog. I'm tired of being broke. I want to live like the rich folk. So, Stephen Totillo over at GameFile said Remedy's next big game, Control 2, will be made with a smaller budget than Alan Wake 2. It's part of a refined approach at Remedy as the studio learns from some recent challenges. Remedy CEO tells me we are moving from surviving to succeeding. So, I'm not gonna lie, Loon, this bums me out. It's like I get it, of course. The crazy thing is their games aren't even made with some incredibly high budget as is, but it's just a bummer because I think Control is so much better than Alan Wake in terms of like the core gameplay experience that's on offer. And it's like, damn, I would love to see Control 2 with that crazy level of production value and the cinematic set pieces and the badass FMV integration. And like, I would love to see Control 2 get that big budget feel to it to see if more people can get into the door. Because let's be honest, Control 1 is a fucking phenomenal video game, but it is light in the ass when it comes to like it doesn't have that big budget feel. It doesn't have like the Alan Wake 2 when you're fucking seeing the crazy how they tell that story in Alan Wake 2 is just it's one of the most well-directed experiences I've ever seen in video games. Control doesn't quite feel like that. It's a gameplay first game more so than it is the story is mostly like post-it notes.
Yeah, mm, I think I liked it that way though. If I'm being honest, I think that was the kind of the. It was a very particular way of unfolding the way that that game tells its story. And I think because you're doing that government, you're in that government building and stuff like that, and everything is all conspiracies, or it kind of fit to tell the story that way. Um, Making you go long stretches without really interacting with anybody, it made you feel isolated and stuff like that. Whereas, I don't know, there's certain sections in Alan Wake where it was a little bit long winded. In fact, there's definitely really great moments and stuff like that. But when I'm thinking of like, because I've said it time and time again, like Alan's sections are massive step downs for me in comparison to Anderson's.
But that's
I've,
because of the gameplay, you would say? Because for me, it was like every moment of playing Alan Wake 2, like the majority of the gameplay experience was just like, it's whatever. But the fucking story, the presentation, the production value, it's like, oh my God, this thing is just the weird shit they're doing was so captivating.
yeah, there's maybe a couple of moments where Alan's sections do trump her sections, but I think her sections overall were just better as well. Even like gameplay wise, story wise, and stuff like that. Like the board, everything just fit with her. Whereas it felt like he was there because you've just like you. It's the game's named after him. He has to make some appearance. Um, all of the best parts for me were with her section. So when I'm thinking back to Control, I think that was a much for me. I enjoyed it much more than Alan Wake 2. Um, so it being on a slimmer budget, because I assume that because Alan Wake 2 would have cost more than Control, right, to make.
Oh yeah.
So if they're just going back to to a Control ish budget, I don't think that'd be negative. Personally, I think they can
Yeah,
accomplish a
that's the
lot with
thing.
it.
That's the thing that's a bummer is Control didn't sell well either. So it's like I don't know
Hmm.
what the fuck. They just
I
it's a
don't think there's
weird
anything that
studio,
they. I
man.
don't think there's anything. This is the thing. It doesn't matter what they do. I don't think their games will sell. It's
Yeah.
just one of them things where, bias aside, obviously we both love them. It's just a time bomb. It's just a matter of time when they just stop making games. If we're being 100% honest, it's going to be the thing with like Deus Ex, where it just no one. You eventually run down every avenue you can to get people to fund your project, and if nobody picks it up, that's it. It's just dead in the water.
Yeah.
It's the
No,
thing of
totally.
it's the thing of like the day Sony stops funding Kojima stuff is going to be a very sad day because I don't think
Yep.
anybody else is going to throw him money. Like the reason that Sony's throwing it is because he has such a strong relationship and history with them. If I don't think Death Stranding 2 will sell badly, but if that bombed, for instance, and they just stopped, he would be screwed. Nobody's going to be kicking him money because he has a track record of going way over budget and not shifting enough copies, unfortunately. And that's the kind of thing that is with it's where they are right now, Remedy. Like nobody wanted it's the reason that Microsoft cut ties with them. Because they originally owned the Alan Wake IP. They were just like, no, you can have it. Take it. We don't want anything to do with it because it just doesn't sell. Um Obviously Epic picked them up.
Yep.
I don't think they're gonna probably be jumping through hoops to
No.
help them out anytime soon. It's just because they weren't the who was it that published was it Private Division Control or was it someone else?
Uh, I'm not sure. It actually, yeah, I think it might have been Private Division. Let's see. Control Game Publisher. 505. That's right.
505. Yep,
505. Yeah.
it was one of them. They've obviously they didn't want to fund Alan Wake 2. So it's the kind of thing of like I don't know what they can do. Obviously they've got that Max Payne what is it remake in the works as well.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So Annapurna is publishing Control 2. So Remedy and Annapurna announced a strategic cooperation agreement on Control 2 and bringing Control and Alan Wake to film and television. That makes sense. So Annapurna's funding Control 2, which obviously they don't have the type of funding as a Epic or whatever, so that's probably why it's on a slimmer budget. And then they're bringing Control and Alan Wake to film and television, which, if I'm being real,
That's
that's
where it will
probably,
shine.
yeah, that's probably where it'll shine.
It's the thing of I obviously shout him out a lot, Yahtzee. I have a lot of respect for him as a thing. He doesn't like Remedy's games. He thinks that they would much rather be making films than a game. And I think to a certain degree it is true. You see them constantly use FMV and stuff, and it is a completely unique experience, but it does feel like sometimes they just want to make a film at times. And I think that's probably where they will actually see huge success, much less than the game and stuff like that. I don't know why people don't buy their games. But it's the same thing of like it's at the end of the day, there's only so much to go around. There's a reason that people don't buy Mafia games. They're not bad games. It's just
Only
how
so
it
many
is.
games you can buy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I really I would love to see, of course you don't root for acquisition and all that, but in certain situations like a Remedy, I wouldn't mind seeing them get acquired by a healthy, publisher, a publisher that'll like I don't know whatever happened with the whole Rockstar thing where they were working with Rockstar pretty closely for a while there. But it seems like it happens with every single
Rockstar
publisher
makes
and
money and they don't. That's the thing, is that they have absurd amounts of money that they make. So when they look over their shoulder and are like, how are you pumping that much money in and you're getting nothing in return? We don't want anything to do with that. It's just, as again, we're talking from fans' perspectives. Like, we love their games, but when you're looking at it through Rockstar or whoever Take Two's eyes, they're like, why would we ever kick you any money?
hmm
That's just not worth it for us. Even if you break even, like breaking even doesn't help us. Ever so slightly going in the profit margin doesn't help us. Like, we want to make money.
Well, and it's funny too where it kind of got rocky or whatever when Remedy and Microsoft had that ongoing relationship. It kind of went south at the worst time because if they were still under the Game Pass regime and like it was just kind of the whole compulsion thing, which came out recently where they were like, Microsoft doesn't want us to make blockbusters. They just want us to make good quality, high quality games. Um, and it's like, well, that'd be a perfect relationship for Remedy right now. Just something to go into Game Pass that's extremely high quality, but not. But even then, Microsoft is kind of in the point where I think they're about to turn into. I mean, they are evil corporation. They're all evil corporations, but like, it, I think it's about to become probably real ugly pretty soon. I would assume, as you saw with like Tango and Arcane and I I don't want to wish for compulsion to be under the fucking knife or, getting slaughtered and disbanded and, sold off or just completely shut down. Um, but it's looking like tides are definitely turning in a negative direction for the whole Game Pass initiative as well. So maybe even that isn't wouldn't have been the savior for Remedy. Maybe they just I just hope they can find some hit. Maybe it is that live service, FBC Firebreak thing. Maybe that's the thing
No,
that
I,
normies get in the door and
I don't see it. They're just doomed. Unfortunately, if we're being 100%, it's just that it just people don't buy Deus Ex games. People don't buy Mafia games for the most part, and people apparently just don't buy Remedy games.
it's a bummer, man. Because man, they make such good shit. They make
Hmm.
such good shit. But hey, uh, there's a lot of good shit being made every day that people aren't consuming. So it's it is what it is. I hope that they're able to find some stability and are able
Yep.
to continue with their creative output because man, they are, in my opinion, some of the best in the industry. And I do think they'll find a home eventually that works for them at least for I'm not saying the long term, but for at least the medium term.
For one more game.
Yeah. Um, Xbox, the handheld leaked. The Project Keenan is what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, weird
Um,
name.
yeah. So this was during the FCC, uh, the United States FCC just inadvertently leaked Xbox partner handheld with Asus known as Project Keenan. This is coming from Windows Central. Um, yeah, and it shows a photo of the handheld. It looks kind of hideous, but it also I think it looks hideous just because of the photo, how it's taken. It's like all dirty and shit. Like you could tell that people's fingers have been all over the screen and stuff. And it's like it's just not them. I'm sure by the time it comes out, there will be some green in there. It just won't be this like flat matte black kind of. I'm sure there will be something that kind of gives it a little bit of a pop. Um, but yeah, let's see. The FCC leak seems to showcase two models. One is most likely the Asus ROG Ally 2 with the white exterior. The black model is most likely Project Keenan, which I'm told is currently being tested at Microsoft headquarters rather openly as we speak. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. The rest of the stuff. If one had to guess, Microsoft and Asus may hold separate reveals on May 20th, with one focusing on new dedicated Xbox gaming features for Windows 11 PC gaming handhelds, and the other focus specifically on the ROG Ally 2 and its hardware. The Xbox Asus ROG Ally won't be able to run all of your Xbox console games. That functionality will likely come with the tried and true Xbox handheld Microsoft is working on likely for 2027, according to our best information. So, okay. So this isn't the actual Xbox handheld. This is the one that they're partnering. I don't even know why they're doing all this shit. So they got a handheld that's coming out soon, I guess this year or early next year,
Why would
that's
they do
partnering.
this?
That's
Why?
really fucking stupid.
I because I can tell you exactly what this is going to be. It's because they'd said that specifically it was your Xbox library doesn't. It's not fully compatible, right?
Hmm.
So what that means is it's any game that's not Play Anywhere, you won't be able to play on this. That's what that means. They've not said that, but I can tell you that that is exactly what that means. That means that when you boot up the PC app on the Xbox store, whatever games you can play on that, you will be playing on this. But you're talking like I have, over 1,000 plus titles. There's only about 200 on there. Like it's a slim library compared to what you expect to be able to just, oh yeah, you just put the, like, a load of games don't have that functionality. So unless they massively overhaul and go back and, greenlight a bunch of them, that's not the win that I would have hoped for them.
And it's just such a confusing, it's like confusing from a marketing standpoint as well, because when people are going shopping for their Xbox handheld in 2027, or if they're in a store, or just like, they hear a friend tell them, yeah, I got this new Xbox handheld and I'm playing all of my games natively and I got Game Pass just sitting right there, booted up, download everything, everything's fully functional, fully playable. And then it's like whenever you go to buy the new handheld, you got this Asus handheld as well as you have and it's like the separation is so minimal that it's like why not just release your own, wait the 2 years, and just can this thing right now and then release your own in 2 years and then only
Because
have one on the market to
because this
avoid the
is
marketing confusion.
that's the thing, isn't it? Marketing confusion. It's the thing that they've mastered. Series S,
Yeah,
Series X, and
true.
stuff like that. One X, one
Yeah.
S. Like what the? Can you just like this? PlayStation just keeps it simple. Do you know why they keep it simple? Because people are simple. We don't
Yeah.
need all these different, letters and stuff, and just number it, man. What is wrong with you? Like, why are you always trying to think outside the box? Because, like you said, all this is going to lead to is confusion and annoyance as well. Because if they end up buying this first iteration and their friend has the other one when it comes out, and that has, we don't know what that's capable of, but hypothetically, if that had full library support, and they see their friend and they're not in the gaming space and they go and pick that up and they're like, well, why can't I run all my games? What the hell? All that just immediately hurts your brand. It's just, yeah, this they just annoy me sometimes with their just stop shooting yourself in the foot, man. It's really not
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. And it's the thing where I'm actually the perfect person that they're marketing to right now because I am in the market for one of these devices. Like, and I would rather buy an Xbox branded you know, piece of hardware than I would a Steam branded or a Asus or, ROG Out. Like I would rather have the Xbox one because it's like, sure, I have, Game Pass. I would like to be able to just boot it up and play my Game Pass games and like, but I'm also, I would rather wait for the good one.
Mm,
Like if there's one that's a bad one and one that's a good one, like just boiling it down to very stupid person terms, because I'm a very stupid person when it comes to this shit. Like if you tell me one can play all my games and the other one can't, that means one's a good one, one's a bad one. I'm gonna wait for the good one.
because
And like if
that's
I gotta wait 2 years, I'll wait 2 years.
because that's like you said, the one that they're targeting for you is that it's because it's Xbox. You have a collection of games. So if you can't access the collection of games, why don't you just go buy a Steam Deck?
Mhm.
Because you'll be in the same starting position of having no games, no games. Like it's, yeah.
Well, and yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is I want this device primarily for emulation because I'm going to play all I want to play the big games on a big TV and like with the console and kick back, chilling. Like I want to play it that I like playing games that way. I don't ever want to play stuff like that handheld. But sure, you're telling me like Balatro, I can just boot up on my, and I know you can do it on mobile right now, but I don't know. You're telling me something like, let's just say, even something like South of Midnight, a smaller scale game. I'd love to play that on a handheld device. I would love to play something like Expedition 33 on a handheld device every now and then. You're sitting there watching NBA playoffs or whatever, and it's just
Dude,
like,
split fiction would be perfect.
yeah,
Like
totally.
them types of experiences. Having one person have it on the TV and the other person having it in their lap. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so for me, it's like emulation is the top priority for sure. But when it comes down to it, and I'm looking at all the options, if I also have one where I have my Game Pass games just sitting there and I'm able to play those as well, for some weird end because like yeah when you go on a trip it's nice to take your handheld opposed to taking a fucking full ass beefy console. So yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. I probably will pick up their official, like their real handheld. I don't know if I'm gonna, because like you said, if it's just another version of a ROG Ally with an X on it and some green branding, like I don't give a fuck about that. I'll just wait 2 years and get the good one.
Yeah. The thing that worries me is the fixation on cloud.
Right.
And obviously there's that other handheld has like barely any information. We know it exists. We don't know any specifics on it. Every single week I'm seeing posted that 6 more games got added to full cloud support, five more, six, 10, 50, and like that kind of gives me pause for hesitation because it's like, all right, so it's a few years out. So in their mind, more people would have, adopted this as a thing. I just, I really, really hope that that other handheld isn't just like, yeah, the full cloud handheld. That would be devastating.
Yeah.
That would just be like, what? I just don't understand you people.
Well, and that's the thing where you can infer and you can speculate based on things Phil Spencer has said, but it's like we should probably fucking stop doing that at this point because a lot of dude seems like a wonderful human, but in terms of the things he says and those things actually happening, that doesn't often line up all that well. But he has said multiple times like they want to make he thinks that native play is top priority for a handheld device. Like doing it through the cloud is not an optimal experience. He's openly said this, and it's like I want to take that as like, take it to the bank, but I also wanted to take to the bank that we bought Bethesda for excellent exclusive software, and I also wanted to take it to the bank that uh, it's just these four games that are, all of these things where it's like you. No, once again, he's in a tough spot because I think it's his vision versus Microsoft's vision, and Microsoft's vision is always going to trump his vision.
I just
Um,
hope he has a big enough voice and for that specific thing because
yeah,
the example I'll give, I remember seeing Bill Gates. I know this isn't like fully related, but he went on. I think it was like Ellen show back in the day, and they did a thing where it was like, how much do you think this costs at like a supermarket? And they lined up all the things, and he couldn't guess like most of the stuff because he just is that out of touch. And the
yeah,
the the thread of logic that I'm leading into there is if you have a bunch of people working in like a R&D team and they're under the best circumstances. So they have the fastest internet. So they're sitting in there like, man, this, yeah, it's working.
right,
We figured it, man. Cloud gaming, this is it. You don't need to download anything. This is just rock solid. Like if they're going at it with that and then they go to the board and then they show them and then it's just like to them, they just think they figured it out. It's cracked. But to everybody else, it's like, well, we don't have your level of internet over there at Microsoft HQ, guys. We're
yeah.
sitting here with hamster wheels. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I One of the first things I did after I got my Starlink all set up, and right now, knock on fucking wood, it's running really well. Um, like I'm getting 200 plus megabit per second speeds and shit. Like it's cooking for me. I mean, I know that for most people isn't high, but for me it's cooking. And so I was like, ooh, well, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna try to do some streaming from I want to play Infamous. I want to go in and I want to play some of these PS3 games. And as soon as I booted up one, I think I was like, I've never played Resistance. I'll play Resistance. And immediately it says your internet connection is unstable or whatever. It was like you can't fucking you're not going to be able to run this, dude. And it's just like damn 200 meg. And I know maybe upload is more important than download. I don't know anything about any of that shit, but it's just to say once again that these are kind of, I'm not saying my speed is the average, but it's like somewhere around the average. Most people don't have fucking fiber yet. Most people don't have 800 megabit per second speeds yet. And until that becomes a mass market of hundreds and hundreds of millions of people that you can sell this thing to, then it's like cloud isn't, we're a ways away from cloud becoming the future, I think. But we shall see, man.
Yep.
So speaking of Phil Spencer and speaking of
Just 4 games.
just four games. Well, there was once just three games that people knew Xbox for. The burger, the shake, and the French fry, as people would call it. The Forza, the Halo, and the Gears. I
Yep.
would say Halo is your burger, Forza is your shake, and Gears are probably the fries. So the fries and the shake are now available on PlayStation. Forza, it was reported Forza sold like 1.5 million copies on PlayStation, just fucking insane. And I think Gears of War, which was announced to be dropping on PlayStation 5 in August of the 2025, August 26, 2025 for $40, Gears of War Reloaded will be on PlayStation 5. And now we wait. Halo, the burger, is the only one left on the menu that has not arrived at if this is the Whopper, if this is the Burger King Whopper, the Whopper is the only thing left on Burger King's menu. The Burger King chicken fries have arrived at McDonald's. The classic Oreo milkshake has arrived at McDonald's, and now we're just waiting on the Whopper. So, how long until the Whopper arrives on PlayStation Loan?
I'm gonna be brutally honest though. I think they would have preferred to have that be Halo than Gears right now. But I think that what they're actually running into is the fact that Halo Infinite still isn't stable. They dropped a Firefight update. I think it was like a day or two ago. And I was like, oh, I loved Firefight. Hell yeah, I'll jump in and give it a go. The menus don't even work. It doesn't even load my player data. So that you can't ship a product like that to a competitor as like the first
Mhm.
like, oh, this is Halo, and then it just doesn't function. And obviously the
Yeah.
Master Chief Collection took them so long to get that fixed. Like Halo's just been in such a rough state for so long. Whereas Gears, I mean Gears just worked. They didn't really run into issues with Gears at all. They remastered Gears 1 already for Xbox One. Pushed that out. Gears 4 and 5 both came out completely fun. So I don't know. I think they probably would have wanted to lead off with Halo, to be honest, as the front running thing. But they just, I don't know what on earth they're doing over there at 343, but they need to get their shit together. If I'm being honest.
What I think's going to happen with Halo is I think they're going to do it the same way they're doing the Gears. I think it's going to be like lightly remastered touch-ups, and they're going to drop them all individually and just milk out the player base for as much as they can. $40 each time for one, two,
Yeah,
three, reach, four,
because
infinite.
this is the thing. It will drop into Game Pass, so you're not going to piss off your Xbox players.
Well,
And well, it for that specific type of where it's going, it may annoy them. I've seen people
yeah.
get pissed about that, but I think I've made my stance. very,
Yeah,
very
it's
clear.
over.
I really don't care about exclusive. I never really have. It's never been something that I've trumpeted. But that as a marketing tech, because the whole thing is like they wouldn't have been able to. It made sense to do the Master Chief Collection in its entirety for your own platform. Putting it everywhere else, like I said, because it's not going to make them suffer because you'll just be putting it into Game Pass anyway. Yeah, man, milk every other platform, make that money.
Yeah.
PlayStation wouldn't bundle everything together. Like they do individual releases because it makes money.
Hell, they just bundled The Last of Us 1 and 2 together and sold it for 100 and something dollars. It's like, yeah, man. Dude, I think from a business standpoint, doing it one game at a time makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I don't even, I can't knock them at all for taking this route from a business standpoint. Listen, from a enjoyer of console experiences, like, does this bum me out a little bit? Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, in my opinion, to know so obviously now that it's like, yeah, nobody is going to buy an Xbox. And like, unless something massively, massively, massively changes, that will remain a consistent into the next generation as well. Maybe their whole thing with going the PC route, maybe that will be the selling point for people to get in because, oh, well, damn, now I have my Steam library and I can play my Steam library just super simple plug and play on the couch and I can and which yes, you can hook a PC up to your TV and all that, but it seems like that's annoying as fuck of a process
Yep.
to really so maybe that's the big selling point. Maybe it will be successful because people are migrating to PC, but I know a lot of people would love to have the PC experience as a more plug and play simplified solution. So maybe that will be Xbox's next pitch. But as it stands right now, I think it's not the death knell. The death knell was issued a long time ago when it was when you saw that games were coming to PlayStation, that was it. It was over. Um, and like the console war is
Ah,
done.
I'd even go before that. I mean, it's just
Xbox One, yeah,
it's been the fact of the moment that console games moved their stuff to PC because that's the thing, they were the first to do it. And I remember PlayStation players looking over and being like, "We are a moron for doing that." PlayStation would never do that and stuff like that. And it's just like, I don't know, man. There's only so much you can expand, and they had to even get even more desperate because obviously PlayStation had to catch up with themselves and stuff by putting it on PC. They've not had to put their stuff on Xbox yet. I don't think they will. But Xbox fell so far behind where it's just like, fuck it, just put it everywhere.
um,
Just be
yeah,
everything. The thing that I've got like spiraling around in my mind as well is this is a complete like theory, but wouldn't it make sense as well to get as many people pushed into a PC ecosystem because most people that enter a PC ecosystem are going to be buying Windows, so it just benefits them innately.
true.
So you just make your console experience less and less desirable to the point where when they are looking to jump ship, especially now, you're looking around and you're like, man, like 600, 700 for a console? You may as well just, for a lot of people, if they're genuinely looking for the best experience, which a lot of people claim that they're doing, it just makes sense to just buy a PC, which then benefits them because then it goes on to their monthly active users and all of these graphs where they can turn around and go, yeah, we have more people using Windows ever than before and stuff like that. And that's kind of what this feels like. And maybe that's why they want to try and make that line be less and less blurred between console and PC. Because then they can just merge that all together and just it benefits Microsoft as a whole. Because if that just runs entire, like, because it already runs off like a Windows based system, the Xbox. So if you can just 100% confirm that and just be, yeah, it's Windows, that just benefits Microsoft,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key word right there. Benefits Microsoft are the key,
which they
two
haven't
words.
done for a very long time. They have been asking for handouts for many many years, and you do it at some point. It doesn't matter how bottomless their pockets are; they will run out of patience eventually. And
Absolutely.
this is why they're scrambling here, there, and everywhere, trying to do this and that, and just be like, no, 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 we are profitable. See, numbers.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like at some point Microsoft is going to take over the whole fucking kit and caboodle and it will become like uh, it's not going to be this thing that we've known for 20 years for much longer. And listen, that does bum me out. And I think a lot of people look at the whole, and I don't want to go on a full I rant about exclusives nonstop, but it's not about the exclusive. Like I don't give a fuck about games being exclusive or not exclusive. Like that is irrelevant to me. To me, it's all about the the options that we as consumers have in the console market. And also like I don't think people realize that Sunset Overdrive, that Quantum Break, that Rise Son of Rome, that Detroit Become Human, that Bloodborne, that Until Dawn, like these games were born out of necessity because they were competing with another console manufacturer. Like these games just wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the console manufacturers funding these unique experiences to have something as a selling point for their new consoles. Like it's not just a thing that exclusives are bad. It's exclusive games. Some of the greatest games ever made are exclusive games, and they're only being made because there is competition in the console market space. Like exclusive games in and of themselves aren't huge sellers in terms of like you're not going to become some even The Last of Us selling 20 million units or whatever. Like that's great, but what PlayStation really gained from that was how many ever people bought a PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, whatever to play The Last of Us, and then they spent hundreds upon hundreds of dollars in Fortnite and NBA 2K and all of these service games that they're locked into because they bought a PlayStation 4, The Last of Us. Um,
That's
and it's just
that's where my mindset kind of why I think it's less important now than ever though. There aren't as many people entering the space, really. It's kind of stagnated. I think that's what the eye opener was, is the biggest, because I've said this before, the biggest spike we saw in recent years of gaming was during the pandemic. A lot of them people have now, you know, they very, very briefly interact with that stuff because it was more so of just, I can't go out, here's my way of going out, as a way of socializing. Some of them obviously did stick around and kept with gamers, but you have so many people just invested in an ecosystem. I don't. You're talking like you said with Starfield and stuff like that. Even with that much pedigree behind them of Bethesda and how much anticipation and love people have, no one from PlayStation jumped over because you just
I
won't.
think they're
You just won't do it, or you will, and then you'll sell it. This is the thing of what people have been doing as well. They'll dip in and then be like, and then they end up selling the system. But it's so
I
hard
think
to get people to break out of an ecosystem they're already in, pick up a new ecosystem, and stay in that ecosystem. Because you think back of on paper, we have each logged up as a Nintendo person. When they can log it on the books of we sold a unit, we're not there anymore. I'm not giving Nintendo any money, and neither are you. So they didn't do their job. Does that make sense? Doesn't matter how many exclusives they had on paper and how good they were. It's so hard to get people to stay in an ecosystem when they already exist in another ecosystem.
but they got 100 other million people to buy the thing and
But
they went
they're not going to go anywhere else now. Though them 100 million, I don't see them going to PlayStation 5 Pro.
I think a lot of people have Nintendos who also have PlayStations. I think,
Usually have two
yeah.
hardwares. So yeah,
So I guess that's the thing is like how, you know, we had a generation though where there was Xbox, the Wii, and your Xbox 360, the Wii, and the PS3 were all massively, massively successful. And the PlayStation 3 had to catch up because of the disastrous launch, but all three were really successful. And it's I don't know. I you saw whenever Starfield came out, there was a pretty sizable uptick in console sales for the Series X that month. And I I just think that it was too little too late. You know, it was for the longest time the running joke with Xbox was they don't make games. You know, that they don't make exclusive games. There's nothing to there was no real because I didn't buy an Xbox One. There was no real reason for me to buy an Xbox One. But and I'm kind of once again an outlier to that entire but this is all anecdotal bullshit, but I would be an outlier where I did go into a a new ecosystem with the Xbox Series X because they of the promise of exclusive games of like we bought Bethesda for exclusive games. We bought Obsidian for exclusive games. We bought Ninja Theory for exclusive games. That's why I jumped in. Um, but once again, that's just one. I'm one person, and I don't know. Maybe it's just it's hard for me to until I'm proven wrong, and maybe the Switch 2 will be the thing that proves me wrong. And you'll have exclusive games galore over there, but maybe it just doesn't sell all that well.
no,
I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't know why else would people be buying the Switch 2. It
because it's their
you know,
ecosystem. That's
you
the thing. That's what I'm getting across is that how many users do they have of Switch One? 100 million, you said?
yeah, over
They're
100
not they're
million.
not going anywhere. Like it's so hard to drop the ball that badly, especially when you do something very specific. Like they live in their own little bubble. They're a handheld. They do something different, and that was the big difference between with Xbox dropping the ball and play because play they were just direct competitors. This is the thing. Like the whenever you think of Nintendo, they've never felt like a direct competitor. They exist in the background, but they're just successful or they're just kind of falling on their face a little bit, like the Wii U and stuff. They never felt. It's so weird. It is. It's just they never felt equal at any point. Even when they're doing extremely well, like the Switch, I never viewed them as equal competitors. They're just doing their own thing. They do completely different stuff, and yeah, if you're gonna be getting into a where you're holding a controller and you're playing it on a TV, there's no reason really to own an Xbox at all.
Yeah.
And even then, that's also been the case. Like even with the 360, the numbers were inflated to how many they actually sold because a lot of the things that were getting refurbished and put back out, they would double ticking them as a new unit, as it were, when it isn't. Your unit broke and you're replacing it. That's not really another unit that you've shifted, is it? You can't really count that, and that's kind of like where them numbers were getting a bit skewed and stuff like that. I think Xbox has always struggled,
I
but right
mean, you
now
can
they are really in the dirt.
yeah. Because they had like open financials and shit during the 360 generation. Like they actually that was a really really strong generation for Xbox with the 360. Um, it's just it's yeah it's a I just don't want to see a world where there's one less option on the market. I think that's gonna fucking suck. But I mean, I guess we can take Phil at his word once again that there's a new Xbox console in development and it's going to be the most powerful generation leap. Well, that was actually Sarah Bond that said it's going to be the most powerful generation leap for this next Xbox. But
I'm so sick of that as a phrase.
yeah. Yeah. I maybe if that console is far enough along in development that it will actually come out. I hope that they give it another shot and try this whole PC hybrid thing. I do think that's an interesting enough idea to warrant throwing it out there and seeing what
Mm.
happens. Um, yeah, I saw that Christopher Dring on his show, I believe it's called the Game Business Show, was talking about he has been, running into developers and people who work at different publishing outfits and stuff, and just talking about the state of games and the financials and all of that, because that's sort of his lane. And he was talking about a lot of developers saying, we just don't even know why we're making games for Xbox anymore. It's like we don't know why we're releasing them on this platform. Where if a PlayStation is now an Xbox, it's like why don't we just put it there and put it on the Switch, and PC? And it's like people just aren't there's not a big enough player base there to justify the resources that go into making it for um
No, the
this
only hook
system.
is the Game Pass money bag.
Yeah.
Really, where they're kicking you money, then that is the incentive. Like I said, it's just they shoot themselves in the foot in the stupidest of ways. I think that marketing tactic of everything as an Xbox is a double edged sword. It's a cool thing that someone spitballed, but that this is the reality of where developers are like, well, why would we? Because I think they have to pay, don't they, to put
For,
games
yeah.
on storefronts and stuff. So if it's you know you look at when I gave you the data of Claire, you're talking like 20 copies sold on Amazon UK compared to thousands on PlayStation, the Xbox.
Yeah.
Like, I get it's in Game Pass, but it's like, what incentive do they have to support physical if it's going to be that low of a sales number? And if everything is a thingy, just release it on PlayStation. It just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does bum me out that their vision was never able to be fully realized, because this is the vision is 2025. Like Xbox is having a fucking crazy year. It's one of the greatest years that any publisher has ever had. It is nonstop. Like it Publishers are lucky to have 3 games released in a year. That's like a great year for a lot of publishers. These motherfuckers are having 3 big games drop month in, month out. Like it is a just gluttonous amount of content for people to consume. If you have a damn Game Pass subscription, you are eating so good. And it's the thing where if we could have just if and it's all because of the Activision Blizzard deal.
Mm-hmm.
The $70 billion. Like you have to recoup that investment at some point. And when you have to recoup that investment, and Microsoft, the fuck, because Microsoft never gave a shit about Xbox. It was like, yeah, whatever.
No,
It's
they
it's a
tried to
rounding
shut
error.
them down. There's tons of articles out there about Microsoft. Even in the 360 generation, they were looking to close it, even with the sales and stuff being a strong, because it's just a thing where it's like, why do we care? You need to give us a reason to care. Like, you need to be number one, because
Yeah,
that's what they are. They are the leader, the for operating systems and stuff. Like, it's always make as much money as you can. We don't care. It was back to the Remedy thing. Profits don't always matter. You need to be making record profits. You need to be at the best of your game all the time, no slip ups. So the only, yeah, they wouldn't have gone this route as aggressively if that deal had closed and it was all wrapped up for the launch of Series X. I think that would have been very good for them, but it's just not something that obviously happens. It's not the reality that we live in.
yeah. I think after that deal, you're talking about $70 billion spent, and then you have the the bean counters, the people who are really trying to fucking make sense of all this, and they're like, yo, what is going on here? We got to figure out how to make this money back because when you have 30 million people at that time, probably close to 20 million people that you're selling these games to, it's just we're never going to make this $70 billion back
No, it'd be
ever.
decades and decades and decades and decades.
And then you see, oh shit, we released Call of Duty Black Ops 6 day one on PlayStation and it sells 10, 15 million copies over there, whatever the case may be. Like, oh shit, the bean counters are like, oh, what if we put Forza? What if we put what if we, and it's this kind of cascading, spiraling sort of effect that happens. And the bummer is that this would have been the year. All questions would have been answered in 2025. If you had this lineup of games, Oblivion, exclusive to the Series X, all of these games, if they could have got to 2025 with their previous vision, all questions would have been answered. If it didn't work this year, it would have never worked for them. And it was that at that point, it's like, sure, wave the white flag. We're getting out of the whole console space. And you would have had to have at that point been like, fucking, I get it. You did everything you could. Uh, um, but it sucks that the rug was pulled out from up under their feet right before they got to that point where they were just churning out constant, content constantly, one after another. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've said it 100 times, but it is kind of the only thing that you can say is like, hopefully this PC hybrid thing, because that is new. That's really fucking interesting. Like that's a really interesting idea. If you can actually make that plug and play, if you can make a PC experience plug and play, maybe that is your exclusive kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have actual exclusive content, like that could be your exclusive feature suite, and maybe that's the selling point. That's something that nobody else has. So we'll see, man.
Yep.
All right. Um, did you see Rockstar is claiming that they say on Twitter they released their trailer 2 on Twitter and they say Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer 2 was captured entirely in game from a PlayStation 5 comprised of equal parts gameplay and cutscenes. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. I mean, I'm not trying to call you a liar, but I went through it. I watched it like 10 more times after they said that. And I went through and tried to find every shot of what could be gameplay here.
I
And
I think they're probably claiming cutscene is gameplay. Is the
well, no,
only
they
way that
differentiate it. They say was captured entirely in game from a PlayStation 5 comprised of equal parts gameplay and cutscenes.
mm,
That's crazy. I just don't think that's true. I mean, well, here's the thing. So I went through it beat by beat, and do you remember whenever Xbox said that Fable, that first Fable trailer, there was like, no, it is gameplay.
mm.
It's like, no, it's not. Like there's you got a couple shots of gameplay in there, but it's looking nothing like what the actual game is going to play like. We don't see the UI. We don't see okay, there's like in this trailer, I'll go through some of the things that I think could be gameplay, but in this trailer, it's not like we see the third person view of you shooting and how that's going to look when you're controlling Jason and Lucia. We don't see third person driving and how that's going to control when you're driving. We don't see, how it's going to look when you're flying the helicopter. Like we don't see that style of gameplay to reflect what our experience is going to look like. But what I do think is likely is that this is gameplay, a lot of it, but it's from like they take gameplay and then they have a editing fucking magic that they spin on it
Yeah.
and make it look super cinematic.
Yeah, because you can do that in GTA 5. What was it? The
Right.
director mode and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm probably envisioning is what they've obviously they have their them being the devs, they have a lot more at their disposal than the player would with a director mode, but it's that kind
Yep.
of thing of what I'm thinking when they're saying, yeah, this is gameplay, when it's panning on like him driving bikes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it's just like, yeah, that's very cinematic. I think a lot of people would have even just 30 seconds of just like actual. I know it's kind of rude to say actual gameplay, but like what you would experience as the player, like genuine like
Hmm.
thing. But I guess that would kind of also it wouldn't fit at the same time in that trailer because they're going for a very specific way of unfolding the trailer, and it would be kind of a bit of a lurch. So I don't know. Looks great
Yeah.
though.
And it's, I guess that, they're gonna do the whole marketing rollout that they typically do where they do the full, we wait like 3 months before the game comes out before we even see what the fucking gameplay looks like. But I
And it turns
so
out that it's
what,
isometric, top down, going back to
oh my
GTA
God,
1.
that would be brutal. Um, but I went through it, and so some of the things that I took away from it was Jason walking through the door early on in the trailer. I'll reference the points for people so they can go and scroll back if they want to look at it. You don't have to go to all these points. Don't fucking. There's way too many of them. Jason walking through the door at 27 seconds. That's probably gameplay. Him slapping the convenience store owner around 32-second mark and opening the register. I would guess that's probably gameplay. Um, and then I think the weightlifting is probably gameplay because if they're saying equal parts cutscenes and gameplay, I'm assuming that you're actually able to lift weights. Because I mean that once again, that's one of the only other things in here that I could think of that could be gameplay. Because after that, you go all the way to a minute and 44 seconds into the trailer where Jason's throwing the dude against the car, and then you have the kind of Lucy in the kickboxing ring and all that, and then kind of that final shot where all the action's taking place. I'm guessing that's the final bit of gameplay there. But yeah, a lot of this looks like cutscenes to me, but it is what it is. It looks like really good cutscenes, but I don't think that's half gameplay, half cutscenes. I think that's maybe 75% cutscenes, 25% gameplay. But regardless. Um,
Uh,
I also
it's
go ahead.
weird because if it was Ubisoft doing this, it would be worrying
Right.
because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with stuff like that. You place yourself back in the shoes of watching Red Dead 2's same level of trailer,
Hmm.
and then when you actually get it, you're like, I mean, there's absurd levels of detail
Yep.
in Red Dead 2. I don't think like obviously there's certain things that they probably tarted up to make it look even better than what it genuinely is, but it's very hard to distinguish as the player, and I think that's going to be the same with GTA 6.
Yeah. No, I agree. I did see. This is something I didn't catch at the first time we watched the trailer, but there's that shot whenever he's walking out of the convenience store and he's got the 6 pack of beer, and you can actually see like the liquid slosh around in the fucking bottle and like the foam is rising. It's just there is some crazy, crazy detail in this trailer that once again is only possible when you have fucking $2 billion to throw around at a game. But I another thing after watching the trailer again, and I see a lot of people online talking about they think Jason's going to be a cop, like they think Jason's going to pull the whole Paul Walker thing from Fast and Furious One. I because there's the moment where he's like talking to the corrections officer, and he's like the corrections officer's like, haven't I seen you here before? It's like, well, that kind of seems like a telltale sign that Jason might be working with the police. And then obviously they talk about he's an ex army, and there's some of these things that line up to where you're like, and then there's the bit in the trailer where it's like, they say, is he working for the feds or something like that, or is he a rat? And I feel like they're telegraphing way too much that he's going to be a cop. I don't think there's no way that he's going to be the one that I. If anybody, it'll be her because they wouldn't give all this information leading up to allowing people to make that assumption and then just like, yeah, that's the story.
Yeah, it would be baffling because that's a big twist if it is going to be part of the story. Um, There's obviously other games that have done it and stuff like that, and they don't allude to that when that stuff's
Hmm.
been like unveiled. So it would be very weird. Because what do they gain from telling you that? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like they're the first people to tell it, and they're like, "Oh, you got to make sure you see this." It's to a degree, it's cliche. Um, but I don't know why you would do it in the trailer as aggressively as that.
Yeah, it's interesting because cliche is the right word. I think that it is kind of a I think if that's the story they end up telling, if that's the twist, I'm gonna be like, yeah, okay. You know what I actually think would be the twist is not having a twist of them just being truly in love, like them just actually having each other's back, ride or die. Um, like it truly being a story of like we'll go. Obviously, they're gonna have conflicts and they're gonna have fights and they'll probably break up at some point and get back together, and that'll be the period of the game where you can go and get hookers and shit as Jason, like all all of that shit. Um. But it'd be cool if it's just like a straight up ride or die like relationship. I think that would actually be somewhat of the twist. Ooh, you know what? I could actually see this being the twist. This is really dark, and I'm sorry that. Well, fucking, I'll just say it. I can't just say what I was going to say and then not say it after saying what I was. So, what I just thought was, what if the twist is she's pregnant and they have to do like one final mission. They're like, we're doing one final mission to set up for our kid to make sure they're set for life, yada yada yada. And then they end up both getting killed in the final mission. That'd be fucking heartbreaking.
Mm.
Like if you're really wanting
I'm
to
gonna toss my hat into the ring. I think that could be a possible thing. I think what it's going to be is a multiple choice scenario towards the end. I think there's going to be a lot more control over the ending than there was in like Red Dead and stuff. I think there's going to be like really big differences in the endings.
kind of, I mean, well, I'm gonna throw up some spoiler tags here, kind of like GTA 5,
Yep.
where it's yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Um, I I won't lie because now that we can talk about it with the spoiler tags, the GTA 5 endings were kind of
yeah.
there's obviously one canonical one where it's like, okay, yeah, that has to be the ending. That just makes sense. The other ones are just like, why are these even endings? Who the hell would choose to off, you know?
Michael or
Yeah,
yeah.
it just doesn't make sense. So I could see them putting in obviously ferrying you towards the canonical ending where it's like, okay, you probably want to choose that. But I could see something really interesting, like with what you said, something that dark, having that as like an optional ending kind of thing where things just go wrong. And
No,
then just the game isn't like, no, there's it's not a checkpoint. That's that's it. And it's just like, oh
yeah.
shit.
Because I mean, I guess we'll throw up spoilers for fucking Red Dead 2 as well, just to real quick. Because like what I'm thinking is they really were ballsy with Arthur Morgan, man. Like that's a dark fucking ending. You know, tuberculosis and him fucking dying out in that final fucking moment there. Like just that was brutally painful. And the whole, the whole lead up with the fight and everything, like just watching Arthur Morgan fucking die out before it led into the whole section with Marston, like
But
that was dark.
so we kind of knew if you played the Red Dead 1, you knew that something like that would happen because it's a repetition of it. But this is the thing of like what you're saying, where they're alluding in the trailer this, that, and that. They didn't allude that he was gonna get what he got in Red Dead 2.
Right.
That was the
Yeah.
whole thing of like it happened organically to the point where if you're of course as well not paying attention, you don't know it until they point it out. Either there were some people that were even shocked because it was just like, oh, that was kind of weird, and you don't piece it together, and then when you go back, you're like, oh, it happened from when he coughed blood on him in the interrogate.
Mhm.
Oh, and then and it's just like that kind of thing. If they un if they've spoiled that stuff in the trailer, that really does kind of stink, to be honest.
Yeah, that
Because
that
it's
would
like
undermine a lot of the.
if they did that in Red Dead 2's trailer, that wouldn't be anywhere near as impactful as it was. Because it's like the thing of like it's going to end. It's like when you watch any 1940s mafia thing, that they never see a happy ending ever. It's just destined that something will go wrong. The criminal life always catches up to you. But it
Ooh.
what?
Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
So like this is the thing of like I don't know if they're gonna see a happy ending, but like don't spoil it in the trailer, man. Like,
I wonder if they both end up working for the police. I guess that could be the thing where it's like
oh my
they
god,
both.
I can't remember what it is. There's like TV shows where people have arrested undercover cops. And like, I'm a cop, you idiot. Oh, that would be kind of hilarious if they both turn
But
out
if
to
it,
be like fucking like deep state agents.
no, no, no. Well, I'm not. I'm saying like they both are working for the police together. Like they both say they both get arrested or whatever, or maybe
Uh,
Lucia gets arrested and her, the way that she say she was set for prison for 15 years or whatever, but they give her a deal. They cut a deal where it's like, well, we're gonna let you out in 2 years, but here's what you're gonna have to do. We got this operation that's going down in Miami, and we need fucking X, Y. We need you to get information on X, Y, and Z. And then she goes to Jason and she's like, I'm fucked, man. I don't know what to do. You're the only person I can turn to. I got to get information on X, Y, and Z. And so, like, I don't know. But it could be a situation where they both are somewhat, under the gun there. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious. I just don't think that they would reveal that much about, the potential turn there,
hmm.
without it being a bait and switch to some degree. Um, all right. So, oh yeah, final bit here. Still in that confirmation of half gameplay, half cutscenes, whatever. They still say captured on a PS5. So once again, like no wording of PS5 Pro. I think that's fucking interesting that nothing has been uttered about PS5 Pro, not even from PlayStation's official site. Like you go to PlayStation's YouTube channel and it says captured on PS5. Like there's no mention, no marketing beat, no nothing to even suggest PS5 Pro was utilized in capturing this. I don't think
Or,
PS5 Pro is getting anything for this.
mm, I don't know if it'll get like features and stuff like that. What this feels like is that obviously with it being delayed, they have such a long run up now. Whenever that 3 month thing is, because it they clearly have marketing rights to it if they're putting PlayStation related stuff inside of it and it's saying it's been captured off of a PlayStation. What better way than when that actual gameplay thing drops and then being like, we've partnered with them, PS5 Pro, the copy of the game, and stuff like that, and getting you see it. They get very smart sometimes. Imagine even just this 1 week early access, PS5 Pro. You get it with the PS5 Pro, so you have to buy the PS5 Pro bundle with it to get
No
the 1 week.
chance.
Like that, you don't think that would be enough to like scoop people in?
But I think you were on to what you said before that. I think is 100% likely is you can buy a PS5 Pro with a copy of GTA
Mhm.
6, like a bundle PS5 Pro with GTA 6, and like some play GTA 6, the best place to play it, PlayStation 5 Pro, the bundle. Like I could see that whole marketing beat, but I don't think they're
I
gonna
could
do any
see
sort of
them.
exclusive.
I could see them do it because you see all the time with like Ultimate Editions getting like a few days early access. With it just being a few days, because it's not like a year that you're talking. Like a few days is something that people can swallow if they're on say other platforms. Like PC isn't getting it at all, so all you'd be screwing over is Xbox.
Now, well, hold up. I could see that though. I could see like I do think they'll probably have an Ultimate Edition where you pay, $500 or whatever, and you can play it 17 hours early or some crazy shit. But like, I think you will have an Ultimate Edition where you can access it early. But I don't think they give a fuck about trying to help PlayStation with that. I think that's just going to be straight up. You pay us, motherfucker. You pay us all the money, and you can access the game early. We don't give a fuck what you go and what console you purchase this thing on. You can, if you want to pay us $500 on Xbox for the early edition, pay us $500 on Xbox for the early edition. But
It's gonna
I
be
don't think,
interesting.
dude, I don't think they give a shit about PS5 Pro. That's my this is going to be my prediction right here right now. I think you are going to see bare minimum upgrades from PS5 base to PS5 Pro because they're not, like you said, they're not putting the game on PC.
Hmm.
PC has a larger install base than PS5. So like they don't they're looking right now at getting this thing optimized for the PlayStation 5. If we're being real. Like I'm sure it'll be equally optimized on the Series X or close to equally optimized on the Series X, but right now they're looking at that audience, the PS5 base audience of 70 plus million people or whatever. They want to get the game in the hands of those 70 million people. The 2 extra million or 3 extra million or 5 extra million that's on the PS5 Pro, I think they look at that as an irrelevant chunk of the audience. I'm not saying there won't be some enhancements, but I just think it's going to be minimal.
Yeah, the thread of logic I was like pulling that from is the fact that that's the numbers they have right now, because there isn't really, for being 100%, there isn't really a reason to own a Pro at the moment.
Not at all.
So what the only reason to own a Pro, which a lot of people have uttered, is because of GTA 6. Even if there isn't like actual exclusive things tied to it, you want it in the best possible state. If you're that
Yeah, that's true.
rabid, and if you're Sony, what better way to turn your 2 million into however X million would be to sit there and beg Rockstar? They're the only people that can bundle a game of it that would shift it in the millions in the way that that would be. And that was the kind of like logic that I was taking it from, because you will see a huge uptick in console sales for both PS5 and PS5 Pro when that comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So if you
no
can
doubt.
bundle it with it exclusively, just with the Pro, that would be the thing that would make it fly off shelves, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I, I do think I think you're spot on about the whole. I think there will be a bundle probably for GTA 6 with the PS5 Pro, and I think that's going to make PS5 Pros fly off the shelves just with that bundle. But yeah, we shall see, man. We shall see. That's listen, don't get me wrong. If it is fucking 60 frames per second on Pro and 30 on base PS5 and there's any sort of weird, exclusive feature like that will be the thing that makes me drop $700. I just don't see it.
I don't think they'll do that. I think we spoke about it before we hopped on. I think that's the type of thing that they would save for a re-release. I think
Yep.
everything everywhere will be 30. Then when the PC version comes out, maybe that it can run at 60, but it wouldn't surprise me if they also lock it at 30 over there and stuff like that, or just be like, yeah, it's only purely optimized at 30 for most pieces of hardware, and then do a re-release, 2 3 years down the line, like what they did with
Totally.
GTA 5.
Well, dude, now how about we move on to some fucking we got two more smaller stories here we'll hit real quick. And once again, living in total backwards world today as we learn about Half-Life 3 possibly releasing in 2025, as we learn about Gears of War coming to PlayStation and EA that they have no plan of following the $80 game trend. And also living in backwards world, we didn't talk about Take-Two pricing Mafia, the old country, at $50. So Take-Two and EA, some of the greediest companies in video game history, are not following Nintendo's footsteps with the $80 so far. Well, we don't know. We'll see. GTA 6 will probably be fucking $645 standard edition. But yeah, man, this is IGN saying publisher developer EA has confirmed it has no plans to raise the price of its games, even as the likes of Nintendo and Microsoft jumped to $80. So I wanted to throw that out there. Go ahead and take it away, Luke.
I don't know. Anything EA fucking utters are just. It's the type of thing they change their opinions so quickly. You're talking about a publisher that said no one buys single player games, so we're not really interested in offering that as a thing anymore. That's not what we do. We want to focus on multiplayer stuff. And then when they were doing their games, they were cutting out the campaigns. Battlefront One didn't have a campaign in the traditional sense. Titanfall One again didn't have a campaign in the traditional sense. And then when they started seeing, Jedi Fallen Order and stuff sell shitloads of copies, they changed their tune real damn quick. And it's the type of thing where it's what's their next big game other than sports games, of course. What's their next big title? They haven't really got that new Star Wars game ready to go. So why would they announce that they're going to be following suit? They don't have to do that at the moment, really.
See, that's the thing though. The game that people would pay $80 for are their sports games. It's the Madden because if you think back to Take Two when they raised the price, they raised it with NBA 2K21. And it's like those are the games that really sell. We think of like your Star Wars Jedi's and we love those games, but those aren't the big sellers.
But they already sell shitloads of the higher um what's the word? The
Yeah,
higher
like the
priced editions and stuff. They don't you have a bunch of people who do obviously come in at the entry point of the standard editions, but you have so many people. Like when I think of FIFA and stuff, even when I was at school, you had so many kids that would convince their parents to drop. It would have been what 99 at the time, so 100 for the ultimate editions of FIFA and stuff like that. When they were back being like 50 and 60s, and they would
but
just
that's the
fly off shelves and kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't think that I understand what you're saying. They would be able to nickel and dime their players even more, but they already fucking wring them dry as is, and they get enough
that's
flack.
the yeah. That's the thing though, where if they charge 80 for standard, that 99 Ultimate
Yeah, you would
Edition
also
now
raise that.
becomes a
Yeah.
yeah, and people um I don't know. I wonder this might be them getting some sort of data back where it's like these $70 games are hard to sell for as is right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing, not the same level of buy-in day one that we saw with $60 games. So maybe there is some hesitation there, and hopefully that is the case. Hopefully the market has spoke to some degree with the $70 game that is giving some pause for these publishers of pursuing the $80 game. That's what I hope because when NCAA 2025 is the best-selling game of, 2024, like I would think that that would have been a prime candidate for easily. There's your next $80 game. But um, hey, we'll take the win where we can get them. So
Yeah, I just don't see it being
guess
being a win for very long. Like you said, if it turns out that when they're looking over their shoulder a year from this is what I think a year down the line, when these big publishers that have taken that step to that 80, if they're doing fine, they'll just be like, okay, cool, we'll follow suit because then they don't look like the villain either,
totally. Yeah, I
which is a
think if we
rare
see
for
like
EA.
yeah. I think if we see NBA 2K26 priced at 80, then the college football game after that. So college football 2027, Madden 2027, all of that will also follow suit with 80. I definitely agree with that. Oh shit, I skipped a story here with PlayStation. They acquired a new studio. Um, Team LFG. So everybody, let's get excited. PlayStation acquired a new studio
Yeah, what are
to
they gonna
make
make?
another live service game, Loon.
Woo!
Isn't that exciting? Yay! So I'm not going to read the full press release, but it's some ex Bungie staff, people who worked on your destinies, and I think there's some stuff on they got some like ex League of Legends talent on here. They got a lot of, there's a lot of big name games that these some of the staff has worked on in the past. But yeah, they're specializing here. Our first game is a team-based action game that draws inspiration from fighting games, platformers, MOBAs, life sims, and frog type games. Players will inhabit a
Ooh.
lighthearted comedic world set in a brand new mythic science fantasy universe. We can't wait to reveal more. Team LFG. Let's let's fucking go. Back to the live service mines. So there was that rumor of the Bungie staff working on that codename Gummy Bears game that was supposed to be like a Smash style party game of sorts. Um, Listen,
uh,
man,
so this is all you.
I, I think this could be cool. I don't think like the PlayStation Battle Royale, the PlayStation All Stars game. I think there was juice to that idea. PlayStation does have enough mascots to make like their own little thing, but I just I don't know if anybody is looking for another live service thing to jump into right now. Like I just think that that market is completely tapped. I don't think Marathon's going to do well. I don't think obviously Fair Games is not going to do well. I just think people spend all their fucking time in Call of Duty, Fortnite, NBA 2K, GTA Online. You're going to have to do something that is so exceptional to break in to that. Like it's an elite company of like 10 games. And everybody spends all of their time in those 10 games. And to break into that 10, you are going to have to do something truly fucking exceptional. And obviously, I can't judge right now. We have nothing to go off of, but I just don't know if this is what any of the PlayStation audience is really looking for right now. Could be wrong.
No, I don't see it. It's not a game that suits their fans, if that makes sense. It doesn't matter how good it is; it could literally rival Smash. But if it's just not something that fits into like when you think of a PlayStation Studios game, that doesn't even remotely come close to what would come to the forefront of your brain. That's got nothing to do with that. It would be like trying to be like, oh yeah, Xbox, they're known for JRPGs. No, they're not. With Lost Odyssey back in the 360, it's just it doesn't fit with their DNA, and it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how good that title is. It's just an uphill struggle to get that off the ground. And they already tried it with what was it called? I'm drawing a blank on it. The PS3.
PlayStation All Stars,
Yeah,
the Battle Royale. Yeah.
and like you said, it had a really strong roster because it's obviously all of them PlayStation mascots. No one cared.
Yep.
No one cared whatsoever, and it's gonna be the same if they go down that route again. Like no one will care. I know it's like the thing. Oh, give it a chance. It's just I don't like Brawlhalla exists on all the big consoles, and it doesn't do anything. And that's a fairly strong, competent Smash clone. So I don't see them doing their own stuff and it moving the needle.
Yeah. I could see a scenario where Spider-Man is a big contributing factor to like the mass market appeal to like a younger audience. Um, but even then, like
We had
yeah, it's just an uphill
multiverses,
battle.
right? And that
True,
was all of
Batman
them,
and
Batman or Joker, and all of that, and that did nothing. They released that game twice. They pulled it off of stores,
yeah,
did a rething, and then put it back out, and still no one gave a crap. It's just I don't know what to like other than like the easiest way. It just doesn't. It's not a game that suits standard consoles. It is a handheld. It's for the Switch. That is where it would exist in the ecosystem, but they already have Smash, so they're not gonna do anything with that.
right.
And this is
And once again,
the thing with what you was talking about of like Call of Duty dominating and all these games. When you see a new player enter the fray, it's very, very rare that they're aping a product that already exists. It's usually something new that comes in, and then other things try to ape it, and then try and battle for that spot. When you saw like the battle royales, like PUBG sold shitloads of copies, but Fortnite won the battle in the end. Like hardly all their players are gone out of PUBG for the most part, and it's Fortnite that's dominating that. And when you think of like the extraction shooter, look, man, Tarkov is where that is at for the most part. Like Marathon isn't going to do anything when that comes out. So
Yeah. I tend to agree. Obviously, like I've been wrong in the past. I could be wrong again. I just don't really see this. I don't see this taking off in any real regard. I here's the thing. I hope it does. I've said this time and time again. I hope Concord does. I hope Foam Stars. I hope Fair Games. I hope Destruction All Stars. I hope all of those games become the next Fortnite because that means that you're making a fucking shit ton of money and now you can fund incredible, single player games without having to worry about, you know, fucking our profit margins for The Last of Us isn't high enough to guarantee Last of Us 3. It's like, fucking profit margins be damned. We're making $75 billion off of our Fortnite style game. But there's already a Fortnite style game.
the thing is, though, with that mindset, that Xbox shouldn't have had any excuse of shutting Tango. Then they had Call of Duty, the big money milker. They have Candy Crush. They have Minecraft, which has dominated since its existence. So I don't know if that even. I don't know how much that money gets thrown around really to other studios in the way that we probably think it does. I think it just probably goes back and just lines the pockets of CEOs more so than being redistributed and stuff. And I think they would still look at it under the lens of, because that's what I'm saying with like Hi-Fi. Like that didn't break. I don't think that broke the bank to make. It didn't sell particularly well, and they still got axed, and they didn't really need to be axed in the
Yeah,
grand scheme
but
of things.
being axed after spending $70 billion is like, you know what I mean? I think they're looking for every possible avenue for cost cutting and all that shit after they're like trying to course correct of how in the hell are we going to ever recoup this investment? And it's like, well, shit, there's 100 plus people who are paying $100,000 a year, yada, yada, yada. Like, I'm not saying I agree with it. I don't. I think Tango was probably one of their most talented studios in general, with the most upside. That was a horrible decision in my opinion, but from a cost cutting standpoint, it's like sure, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't, I genuinely like, I don't think we would have ever saw Star Wars, the Jedi Fallen Order, without the success of Apex Legends. Like, I don't think we would have ever saw, I do, there's no doubt in my opinion that these multiplayer games that make boatloads of cash, that's Epic is able to fund an Alan Wake 2 and like, you don't got to make, sure, we know your weird art house shit isn't going to make any money. We got infinite fucking money. Um, so I but realistically, the thing that it's never enough money. That's really the problem. Is like, so what ends up happening is, oh, we got our PlayStation's like, oh, we got our Fortnite, big hit. How do we make another
Yeah,
Fortnite? And then so it's like, okay, the money that could be going to fund these single player games is going to fund another thing that you're creating to compete with the thing you already have. It's like it's never level-headed business. So yeah, I agree.
yep.
Well, dude, that's it for the Ramble Report episode number 2. I think that's everything on the docket there. I'll do a scroll through the old Twitter to see if anything's broke. I don't think anything has though, from the
Did you
from the
touch on
looks of it.
Mafia?
Do you want to talk about it real quick? We can. I mean, it's I did the whole video on it yesterday, so it's if you don't want
Oh,
to, if you don't have anything to say,
I won't lie. I didn't. I've not seen the gameplay trailer,
no, you're fine, dude.
so
It looks good. $50 price point.
yeah,
Once again, I think that's
it's
that's awesome. That's kind of the big talking point.
yep. I think that's good. It's just more W's for the year, more $50 games, like you said. Welcome it.
Yeah. Split Fiction, Expedition, and Mafia, all at that $50 price point. So there is definitely a pushback to the $80 game. And I hope people go out and support these $50 products so that we can get more. If you're really going to run the full the full spectrum of the pricing range, then there is that middle ground where it's like, how about we have some shit here too? Like if you want to do all this willy-nilly pricing, if GTA 6 can be $100, then sure, what's a $50 game look like? And let's buy some of those as well so that we can get more of them. So yeah, I'm pumped for Mafia. Can't wait to check it out. Looking through the Twitterverse, it doesn't look like anything has broke. Um, there's a photo here of Ninja Theory all sitting around, and they're saying something about looking at a. It's always nice to take a look at your work or some shit, but there's no like the photos blurred out of the game that they're looking at. So at least Ninja Theory is not getting axed. They're working on something new. I know they had that Project Mara game or whatever in development. Another one of those Unreal Engine 5 kind of horror looking things, but
Mm.
hope maybe we can see that at the June showcase. That's right around the damn corner as well. So
It's the thing of like, what what can they show? Like Perfect Dark obviously can get shown, and maybe Fable and stuff. But it feels
mhm.
like they've thrown so many things out. Like, I, what else do they have cooking under the hood? Like, is this going to be like a bunch of concepts? Like, because the thing that's worrying me is that we've seen such an incredible amount of output in such a small period of time. That showcase is going to show us whether or not they've thrown out way too many titles, and that's not a consistent output as to what they can match. That's just them
Really,
going, see, we can make money, and then they're just like, ah, no, we can't. So
dude, I think we're about to be surprised. I think
you think
that
they'll knock it out of the park?
yeah. I'm not gonna I don't want to spoil anything because I've been jotting down some of my predictions because I know that we're getting to that point of the year where, that's kind of the clickable shit for the algorithms. Um, I was surprised how quickly shit was coming to mind, and it's like, oh, this is not gonna stop. Like they are the biggest publisher in the world, and they're going to stay the biggest publisher in the world probably for a long time. It's insane the amount of shit they have cooking, and we'll get into it at a later time. But I might even jot that down as like a topic for next week. Or Xbox showcase predictions, whatever.
Mhm.
But dude, I appreciate you operating the ones and the twos. I'm trying to. I'm out of. I bought the Midnight Walk, that game, that horror first person. It's like it's okay. Played the first hour of it. I was like, it's fine. It's whatever. I can see that it's definitely a VR game. Um,
Oh, really?
and then well, it's VR and console. Like you can play it on the
No, I
PS5,
meant
but you
like, it's
can.
that like apparent.
Oh yeah.
Uh, that's kind of disappointing.
So far, it's very, very limited. Like it's a very limited experience. You're not doing a whole lot of anything,
Mm.
um, which is a standard VR concept. But um, yeah, I finished watching all of The White Lotus, and so like I binged through both of those seasons like a fucking man. The season two of The White Lotus is like some of the greatest television of all time. It's fucking remarkable. I would, because you don't have to watch like season one to watch season two. Anybody out there, if you have HBO right now because you're watching The Last of Us, because that's the situation I was in, go and watch season two of The White Lotus. Fuck season one, fuck season three. Season one's really good. Season three's dog shit. Season two is some of the greatest fucking television I've ever watched in my life. So anybody who is in a similar boat with this HBO subscription and you're wanting to maximize the value out of that shit, I've also been watching Vice Principals on there. I'm trying to in this short window because I'm going to cancel it as soon as
Yeah.
I haven't even been watching The Last of Us because after after the thing happens, I don't really want to keep watching this shit. Like I
Really?
wanted to see how.
You wanted to
Yeah,
see how they executed it in Thingy, and then okay. I've heard
no.
it's, yeah. A lot of people have kind of grown cold on it. Even the people that didn't touch the games are like, I don't really like this. The hell have you done?
Yeah.
So
Go go fucking figure, right? When like one of the most charismatic, like one not necessarily charismatic, but one of the characters you're actually rooting for, if they're not in the picture anymore, it's like, well, hey, wonderful.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, dude.
And then
I
there's and then there's me just plodding along in Expedition 33 still. Still haven't
what,
finished
what's
it.
your hour count now?
I think 22.
Hmm.
Um, hmm. Obviously, I don't want to spoil it. I have all of the party members, and that
So you
last
saw
party
the moment.
member is cool as shit.
Yeah.
The music that
The
accompanied that character introducing them, I just I'm walking around as them. I love that person.
yeah. It's such a fucking good game. Such a fucking good game. I can't wait to hop in here once you finished it and do our big review on the old 33. Um yeah, it's definitely one of the best games of the year without a shadow of a doubt. And some real like incredibly memorable moments from that story. So,
So, but vaguely, obviously without spoiling, where I am now, I'm a little bit ahead of that. Like maybe like an hour past recruiting them. How many like more major things happen roughly? Like how like when you're thinking of like chapters in a book, how close? Like is
mm,
it within touching distance relatively, or is it like a halfway point?
did you get to so I'm trying cuz did you get to Serene yet?
Doesn't ring a bell.
The two islands that are right next to each other and you got to go and do you can do them in either order.
No.
Okay. So that is when I hit that point of the game, that's where I felt like, all right, I'm right, like I'm closing in on this. Like it didn't seem like it was much longer, maybe another 5 to 7 hours after that, I finished the game. So I would say you're probably maybe 10 to 10 to 15 hours away from the end of it, 10 to 12, something like that, maybe.
Not too bad then.
Also depends on how you play, obviously. Like if you wanted to mainline it, it'd be quicker, and I know you're not a mainliner.
No, I've been fucking slow walking everywhere. I did
Yeah.
the obstacle course thing where it just kept going
Did you
up
beat
and
it?
up and up and up and up and up. Is that the one that you was talking about?
Yeah, shit's hell.
I did it first try. I didn't think it was all that
Swear
bad.
to God.
Yeah, on my thing, I was doing it and I was just like, huh.
Holy shit, dude.
I was like,
Yeah, that thing.
this is gonna make me look like I've like edited it, but everyone knows I don't fucking edit, I don't fucking touch
Yeah.
any of that stuff. And I was just doing it. And I was like, oh, cool. I got to the top. They're all dancing, and I was like, yeah, cool.
That is crazy. Yeah, I fell off of it like 3 times and I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I never even finished that fucking thing. Did you get an achievement for doing it?
No, you get a swimsuit for that last character that
Probably
joined the,
worth it.
and it's a design for that person. That's for sure. As in, where
Nice.
they have like a life. What do you call it? What's the ring called when you're saving somebody and they're drowning? You throw them the ring.
Oh, the you throw them the fucking life, not life vest, life jacket, not the fucking the damn. I know exactly what you're talking about.
What the hell is it called? But he's wearing that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's the rat float, the motherfucker. The what is the name of that? That's gonna bother the shit out of me. I'm gonna look it up.
What on earth is wrong with us?
What do you throw someone when they're drowning?
A buoy ring, the throw ring, life
That doesn't
preserver.
sound. Mm,
It is called a buoy. Buoy.
no, yeah, I see it here too. It's just like that doesn't. I don't. I feel like it's something else. Like I feel like I know it is something else. That doesn't ring the bell that I was looking for. Like that's such an unsatisfying feeling. Whatever you can't think of what it is. You know those satisfying moments when you can't think of it and then you immediately think of it as oh that it's that spark that rings to your brain. That doesn't hit me with that same spark.
I w-
Buoy?
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is a buoy. Yeah, maybe that is it. Yeah, that probably is it. Oh well.
Should have been called a sea donut. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, because I was thinking life jacket, life vest, but I was thinking it was something with life, like life, something. That yeah, I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know, man.
We're
Um,
we're land mammals. We're not sea creatures.
yeah, fuck that shit. I try to avoid. I try to avoid the ocean at all costs. That's where sharks live there. I don't wanna inhabit Jaws's territory. I've seen what happens to people when they occupy Jaws's space. But dude, um, yeah. So, happy birthday, happy belated birthday to you, my homie.
Oh, thank
Everybody
you.
wish Loon a happy birthday weekend and let him go off into the expedition lands and then enjoy the excursion of expeditioning, my friend.
Well, thank you. I will try.
Shit, yeah, dude. Well, that's about it for episode 2 of the old
Ramble
Ramble
report.
Report. Ramble Report. That's it. That's it. We'll get this
We
all
need to
down one
definitely
day.
get out of here. We're forgetting words now. It's becoming contagious.
We appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we hope y'all all enjoy the episode, and we shall see you very, very soon. Goodbye.